I've been joined by Dr. Mark Merowitz, who is professor at State University of New York Maritime College. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. First of all,
Right.
a short comment on the life attempt on president. I was reading through the history, and since 1981, this is after 4 decades that 3 attempts on the same president. How do you read it?
Well, I mean, it's unique to have multiple attempts on the same president, but we've had attempts on presidents in our history. And unfortunately, we've had presidents assassinated.
Yeah.
But there have been attempts. For example, President Ford was an attempt by Lynette Squeaky Fromme, who happened to be a member of the murderous Manson family. Not successful. There was an assassination of President Garfield by this guy Guiteau back in the 1880s, who was interested in getting a job as an ambassador, who was a lunatic. So yeah, we've had them, and as far as this president is concerned, yeah, we've had three, unfortunately, and I would say three too many.
Right. At home, president's approval ratings are falling. War is unpopular. We all know that. And gas is at $3.88 a gallon. So the cost is $1 billion a day. Where is the actual American pain threshold? The price point, the casualty number, the duration of the blockade, at which, in your reading, the president would feel forced to take the deal or talk about it at least?
Look, it's not the president who's going to be forced to take the deal. It's the Iranians, and they are not willing to negotiate in good faith. I mean, you could see that from the plans that were promoted by the United States initially and by Iran. Iran is living in a dream world because, they refuse to negotiate the nuclear issue. That's the latest
Yeah.
thing that I've read, that they don't want to negotiate that. That's not on the table. They want to talk about the Strait of Hormuz. Well, give me a break. The truth of the matter is that that's the main issue from the point of view of the United States. Now, why is it that Iran needs a nuclear program? I can't fathom it. They have tremendous resources, among the greatest resources in the world. They don't need nuclear, but it seemed to be wanting this because they want to develop a nuclear weapon, and they're not going to be able to do that. Now, I think the Iranians are living in a world where they think they're dealing with President Obama. They think they're dealing with Secretary of State Kerry, and they're not. They're not dealing with Wendy Sherman. They're not dealing with the incompetent negotiators of the Obama, Kerry, Sherman team. They're dealing with President Trump, and he wants them to commit not to have a nuclear program and to stop the nuclear enrichment and give up the nuclear materials. But they don't seem to want to talk about it. It really is remarkable. And as long as they're not willing to negotiate in good faith, it's not the United States. It was the president who offered to stop the war and to basically negotiate, but they don't want to negotiate. I mean, they're playing a
Right.
game. Now, the
What
other thing could
about
be,
Iran agreeing to shifting its stockpile to Russia?
I mean, that is a non-starter. I mean, that makes absolutely no sense. I mean, in the meetings with Russia, the Russians, but Putin, they commit their complete support to Iran. How can you, again, just as a concept, I was reading in the paper that just hung another bunch of protests. Did not hang those women because of the protests from the president, but they're killing the protesters on the street for peaceful protest. How do you negotiate with people like that and expect them to have credibility and legitimacy when they talk to you about anything? And as far as Russia is concerned, I cannot fathom the idea that Russia would be the interlocutor or that Russia would be the repository of the nuclear material. They have to give up the
Isn't
nuclear
isn't
material
that the exact
completely in the nuclear
message that
program.
Tehran is sending? That all right, so we have the global South involved in this war, and this war is not just about Iran anymore. And if I put in the Putin's words, he said that this war is on Iranian people. He did not say it's on the Iranian regime or what you
Well,
are saying about the nuclear material. Aren't they framing it in a different way completely now? And the global South is standing behind Iran?
well, you can frame it any way you want, but to me, a nuclear Iran is a threat to the world, to the global south, to Asia, to Europe, to America, everywhere. A nuclear Iran is not acceptable. It is a danger to the world. And, as far as Russia's commitment, I mean, look, Russia's having a war with Ukraine. So, on what basis do they come in and they make a criticism or a comment about what goes on with Iran? I mean, as far as the Strait of Hormuz is concerned, I mean, this is not a bargaining game. It's not a game. The Strait of Hormuz is an international strait. It has to be kept open. That's international law. That's not something the United States came up with. And by the way, the United States is committed to international law, to
Right.
keeping straits open, to freedom of the seas. So Iran is not. So they both blockaded it. So now we're stuck. Now we need to unstuck it because obviously the ships are stuck there, and that hurts the whole world. It hurts everybody.
Yeah.
So it's
So
the
when the war
Iranians who are not
started,
willing.
so it is a byproduct of when the war
Yes.
started. This was not the situation. Secretary Rubio said the proposal is better than what we thought they were going to submit. But then he also said that the nuclear question is the reason we are in this in the first place. Is this the language of an administration getting ready to think about it, or at least move towards a framework, or how should we take it? What happened in the last time, the situation room, I mean.
I totally agree with you that it's hard to pin down the framework. I agree. But, the problem trying to figure out a framework and an end game is that you're dealing with Iran. And, they're incapable of making a commitment that they'll live up to. We know that from the JCPOA, which they agreed to, and in actuality didn't follow it. They violated it. They kept pursuing a nuclear program. And we know this. And a nuclear Iran, by the way, is dangerous to all the countries in the world, everybody in the region, you name it. Nobody in the Gulf, nobody in the region, by the way, supports a nuclear Iran. They are fearful of it. And that goes from, Saudis to the Gulf states, everybody, even Turkey, everybody is against a nuclear Iran. But if the United States steps forward and tries to do something about it, it doesn't receive support from Europe, from Asia, from the Gulf. They don't get enough support.
Absolutely.
And so, yes.
The alliances are starting to crack in public now. Chancellor Merz says he sees no American exit strategy. And the Israeli chief of staff says Israel must prepare for multi-front combat through 2026, the same year that we are talking about. The Gulf states, even after $45 billion in arms approvals in 3 months, are quietly saying they want this ended. So when allies move from private dissent to public dissent, what does that push the president fast towards a deal, or does it even harden his position more?
Well, I mean, first of all, the main factor here is the domestic politics in the United States. I mean, we didn't really talk about that. But the fact that we have midterm elections coming in November is clearly, absolutely on the top of the list from the president's point of view of why he wants to put a stop to this. Because if it continues the way it's continuing, with a lot of really dissension, even in Republican ranks inside the United States, that could be, kind of a concern about, even though in midterms, the chance of winning by the Republicans is kind of slim, this war makes it even more difficult. So that is what a consideration we need to put on the table. But as far as figuring out an exit strategy in the alliance, the allies have been dismal. You call them allies. The Europeans, they call them allies. The United States has been there for Europe, went to World War II, fought in Europe, saved Europe, liberated Europe. And where are the Europeans now? Where are they? I mean, I think this is utterly disappointing. I mean, you have King Charles is coming now with Queen Camilla to patch up the incredible disaster which Sir Keir Starmer has created
Is that
in
a
British
soft
US
diplomacy,
relations.
in your opinion?
Say it again.
Is that a soft diplomacy?
I mean, is it diplomacy? I didn't hear what you said, but it is. It's a form of diplomacy by the king to calm this down, because Sir Keir Starmer, by the way, was a very weak leader who actually his own party wanted to kick him out last November. That was the big story in all of the press in England. Come on. Britain has about one ship. It has one ship or two ships, the HMS Dragon. They couldn't even send a ship to the region to respond to the Iranian attack on Cyprus,
So
on the base in
their
Cyprus.
argument is that they do not want to be part of another war, which they think is not their war. So on one hand, this is what they say, and on the other hand, I have the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute's annual report in front of me, where everybody is moving towards more and more rearmament. Where are we heading as a civilization?
Well, I mean, I didn't read your report. I mean, the choice is this, okay? The choice is peace. Peace. Stop the
Peace through
war. Okay.
strength?
We already experienced that with Neville Chamberlain. We remember when Neville Chamberlain went to meet with Hitler and he came back and he said, peace in our time and we're
Yeah.
going to be fine. That does not work with Iran. It's the same thing. You want to go there and get agreements and have them sign things? You can be Neville Chamberlain, or you can actually try to make an actual deal with Iran, which is what President Trump is trying to do. But that deal has to be enforceable. And there has to be credibility on the part of the people who are negotiating with you. And the problem that you have in Iran now is an internal kind of leadership struggle because the Ayatollah is, apparently unwell, unable to function, and the IRGC is ascendant. So who are you dealing with? Whoever you're dealing with has to be able to make a deal. Is it Arakchi? Is it Galibaf? Who's really in charge? And if they sign something, are they credible enough to follow it? I think that's what Trump asks. But instead of doing that, they come back and say, well, you know what? We don't want to talk about the nuclear program now, Mr. President. We'll talk about it later. Let's open the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, that is two ships, to use a maritime analogy, two ships passing in the night and absolutely nothing in common, because the Iranians are, again, as I said before, unfortunately not living in a dream world. The president is offering them,
Right.
I think, a deal. And why don't they do it? They don't want to. And they get backing from their allies, but America, candidly, doesn't get backing from its allies. And I reiterate the fact that the United States, for better or for worse, whatever you think about them, whatever the Europeans think about them, is the bulwark of the Western system today to protect against situations like the Ukraine war, which could expand into Europe,
Your
with the exception that the United States is not allowing that.
always very candid, and I thank you for that. I know where you are. It's
Okay.
really early morning. Thank you so much for joining us.